Hello friends, in this video we'll look at misunderstood Bible verse number 2 from Romans 8 verse 28. What does it mean that God works all things for our good? Romans 8 verse 28 is one of the most quoted Bible verses among Christians, but it's also one of the most misunderstood Bible verses. It says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." So what does this verse really mean? Let's look at the context of this verse. This verse comes from Romans 8, and the context of this verse is living as believers in Christ in a broken, fallen, suffering world. And if we read this verse, Romans 8, verse 28, in isolation and don't pay attention to the context, what goes before this verse and what comes after this verse, if we read Romans 8, verse 28 like that, then it may seem as though this verse is saying that all things that happen in our lives would be good and comfortable. We will live a life of ease. We may come to that kind of an interpretation if we don't read the context of this verse, but that's not what this verse is saying. Herein, it's important to notice or draw a distinction between all things and are good. In verse 28, there are two important things to keep in mind. All things on the one hand and are good on the other hand. All things on the one hand and are good on the other hand. Uh, our good is the ultimate goal. So, what is the ultimate goal? Our good. The answer to this comes in the next verse, Romans 8, verse 29. It says, "For those God foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brothers." So, the ultimate goal, our good, is to be conformed to the image of Christ, to be Christ like, to become like Jesus. So, the good in verse 28 is to be like Jesus Christ. And all things mean all things that happen in our lives as believers in Christ. Whether we are going through times of rainbows and sunshine or tough times, seasons of pain and suffering, God is in the midst of all, and He is working all things for His glory and our good. And our good is that we be conformed to the image of Christ. We become Christ-like. Let me also add this caveat. All things in themselves are not necessarily good. Let me say that again. All things in themselves are not necessarily good. Notice that verse 28 doesn't say that all things in themselves are necessarily good. Disease, pain, suffering, financial and relational difficulties, persecution, famines, hurricanes, earthquakes, etc., are not good in themselves. They are not desirable or morally excellent. Romans 8, verse 28, or the Bible doesn't say that all these things are good in themselves. And we as believers in Christ are not promised lives free of problems or difficulties, trials and tribulations. But God can use all these things in our lives for our good, which is to conform us to the image of Christ, to draw us closer to God, to make us more Christ like.